Howdy there. I'm Matt McKinley, and we're burning daylight.
All right, Daylight Burners. I'm here with Mr. Bobbie Gray. We're going to sit down and have a chat. So I'm Matt McKinley. We're burning daylight.
And I'm Bobbie Gray, and mount up because we're chasing strays.
Perfect. Well, how's the weather down your way?
Nicer than it was last week. Highs in the 80s is kind of funny in July, but been able to start a little later and get a little more done even. So that's been nice.
Yeah. Did you get your wheat out of the field?
Oh, yeah. We only had about 400 acres of wheat and 300 acres of triticale. So it didn't take us very long to get it all out.
Oh, good. How'd the yield look?
It turned out all right. We had one place do about 56 and everything else was about 45. And then the triticale was in the 28, which is pretty good for triticale.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I knew you guys had a lot of moisture, but I didn't know. I hadn't really heard what the yields were doing down in that part of the world. But
yeah, anything that got pulled out at the right time or taken out of the field at about the right time did really well.
Yeah. Once it starts leaning over, that stuff's pretty tough.
Yeah, that is for sure. Takes a little while to get out.
Yeah, well, we caught the heat wave that you guys must have had last week, because it's been hotter than hell here the last week and a half. But it cooled down last night, and today got a little bit of rain, not much, but kind of halfway knocked the dust down for a little bit and cool it off a bit.
Yeah, we didn't catch any of the rain. That wasn't no good. Our corn needs it, and the grass needs it something fierce. We've only gotten one little cut in the hay off, and if we don't get another one, well, we'll be fine for this year, but next year we'll damn sure have to get some put up.
Yeah. How's the cattle handling it?
They do fine. We run all them cattle out of Florida, so that doesn't bother them at all. And honestly, they come up here in the wintertime and do just as good as the cattle from up north. So it's kind of funny. There's some hardy little bastards.
Oh yeah, we used to get a bunch of those Florida and Alabama, Louisiana type cattle. They'd look like cold as hell for about a week and a half until they kind of figured out what the feed bunk was and started hitting feed, and then they were fine. You'd have to hit them pretty hard for about 30 days doctoring, and then they usually pretty well lined out. But the ones that were tough were real tough.
Yeah. There's always some in there that you just get them in and you look at, and you just know there's a 95% chance that little son bitch ain't gonna make it. But
yeah,
if sometimes you can get them through it, it's probably about half and half.
Yeah, they run a lot of Mexican cattle out here, and they remind me a lot of those southeastern type cattle. Just same, a lot of Charolais crossed with Brahma. Just long ear Charolais is what you're gonna get mostly, but everything's got a little ear. And if you handle them right, they're not bad, but they will move. They'll go ahead and move on out.
Yeah. I completely know what you're saying. We get a hell of a lot of them good char crosses. I mean, they're good bastards, but
yeah,
if you handle them right when they're little and you shut the hell up, you've got them whipped.
No, yeah, their flight zone is about 10 times the size of a normal beef steer, but
they don't ever, especially coming out of Florida, they maybe see a person twice before they go to the sale barn.
Yeah, well, and they get rounded up on airboats and shit, and helicopters. So it's a little different type of deal running cattle down there.
Yeah, but if you get them up here and you don't treat them right, or you get them even a little wound.
Oh yeah.
You can't hardly. I mean, they'll go through a 5-wire fence like it's just a little pissant hot wire.
Oh yeah, My brother-in-law, he had a buddy that hauled cattle all over the U.S. and he was bringing a load of Florida cattle, and he called Ross up and said, hey, you want to ride with? They grew up together, hadn't seen each other in a while. I said, well, hop in. You can come with me. We'll unload these cattle. They take them out to wheat pasture, I think, and they just had a little portable corral set up. It was before the days of the OK corral or those great big. Those things are a godsend. Those portable panel setups where you can just drop your trailer and press a button and there you have it. Those things are awesome. But this was, back in the old school days where you got to set out your panels.
Your WW panels?
Yeah. And they had the portable chute there, and Ross said they took about 2 strides on solid ground and then just cleared those panels like a bunch of gazelles, just almost single file coming off the truck, and they were right up on the river, and I don't think they ever got them all gathered, but they those suckers, when they get wound, you better have a fast horse.
Yeah, that is for sure, especially on them little bastards. You get them up there weighing about 8.5, and they're good and soggy and fat.
Oh yeah,
you keep up with them, but they'll damn sure snort and run over your ass if you aren't careful.
Yeah, those bigger ones. If you can find some sort of incline to run them up, you can usually chase them down pretty good. But when they're little scrawny coming straight off a mama's tit, they're little swampy, little squirrely, and it's amazing. It's amazing a little animal like that can just whip the dog shit out of you too. And they can get you piled up in a corner and put a hurting on you pretty quick.
Oh yeah, if you aren't careful, they'll. And you get one. The problem is you get one even try and go over you, the whole group does it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's always the leader that's going to try it.
Over you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that leader will find you, and the rest of them will follow right behind and just stomp a mud hole in you.
Yeah, I've seen some. Well, I guess I've been a part of some pretty bad wrecks, but I've never seen anybody get too hurt. The worst thing I've ever seen. We gathered one of our places, and we've got a solid set of pins at that one particular place, and we had them in our big catch pen. We were bringing them up to load out, and my dad's friend was helping us that day, and this big old Charolais bastard, a big bastard. We knew he was snorty. He just takes out after my dad's friend, and his old horse just stepped to the side and took it, but that calf right in the leg. Put his head down, broke his damn leg. It was a bad deal. But
that's funny.
I was like, holy shit. And then that calf just turned around and went in the pen. He was the first one in the pen. I think first or second one on the truck. I don't know what the hell.
That's weird. We were up in Wyoming. We had I was working for Cactus. They had bought about 7,000 head of heifers. This one guy owned them, and he ran them in several different places there in kind of southern Wyoming, in between Laramie and Saratoga. They were kind of scattered out through there. They're South Dakota cattle originally, real nice Angus cross, like real short neck, stocky, like old school Angus type. Good heifers.
3 foot tall and 4 foot wide.
Yeah, pretty well. And so we went up and we sorted off the top end just as replacement heifers, and we were at this place. They called it Cooper Cove was the name of the ranch or that particular grazing permit or something. I forget if it was a private ranch or if it was if it was a BLM ground or what, but they had an old set of like sheep corrals and like old like the hinges on the gate didn't have a bolt and a nut on it. It still had like the cast iron pins through the hinge, and so it was old.
I bet just the hinges, if somebody got off with them, were worth quite a bit of money. Probably.
Yeah, this one goes back to like the range war type days back in in the early days of Wyoming when it was sheep herders versus cattlemen. That type of old. And we pulled up, and of course all of us guys from with the cactus guys, we weren't mounted or anything. We just came up to help sort on foot. And we pull up, and the first thing you see is like 4 rodeo rigs, which sometimes not a big deal, but when you see those big trailers with the air conditioners on top, and see a bunch of horses, just a bunch of horses with tie downs and stuff, you're just like, man, it could be a long day. And then everybody's got a dog, because you get the further west you go, the more everybody uses a dog, because that you're covering a lot of ground by yourself, and if you got a good dog, that can really make a difference. But there's not much in between on dogs. There's no help or all the help in the world, it seems like.
Oh yeah.
But we were all just kind of shaking our heads like, oh, it was going to be a long morning. I think we had about 1,500 head that we were shipping, and we were sorting. I think we were trying to get 4 loads for ourselves, so about 250 head that we were trying to sort off. And there was this big, nice Charolais, kind of a brockle-faced Charolais that we were trying to sort off, and she came by, put my boss at the time, he was doing the sorting. We were kind of rotating in and out, sorting, and you could only bring about 10 or 12 head at a time and sort, because you could just see the fence bow out as they were moving down the alley. And some guy got yelled at because his dog was just nipping at everything, getting them riled up. And of course you tell somebody put their dog up, and then they act like you called their mom a whore. And when every time somebody tells you your dog ain't helping, everybody kind of pouts in a corner or gets ready to fight, one of the two. And so this Charolais heifer, she rolls up and chases old Roberto up the fence, and but she is a good looking sucker, big, deep, just nice looking heifer. And they bring her back around, and we're trying to get her sorted off. And there's just one other there with her. They got everything else sorted off, and she tries to take him again. He moved out of the way, and one more time, the big boss from Amarillo, he was just like, he's like, hey, just let her go. And he's like, no, I like her. And then boom, he stuck on her chest for about 3 strides before she finally shook him, but just rolled him up in a ball. And then this time the guy from corporate said, nope, leave her be. We ain't doing it.
Yeah. That's a big indicator on what her calves are going to be like.
Oh, man.
Jesus.
Those
learned from my dad is there's a lot of genetics and disposition, and it's not exactly genetics. It's what mama does when it's a baby.
Yeah, exactly. And there's sometimes you can get a nice gentle docile calf from one of them wild bitches, but not very often. Usually if the mama's little high-headed, so's that calf, so you just send them on down the road. It ain't worth messing with it.
No, because you're going to get yourself hurt, and the calf ain't going to sell worth shit because the calf isn't going to be as productive, and it's just, that's not worth, there is nothing worth a good-looking cow that you can't handle.
No, and when you go to the doctor one like that, you slap a loop on them, and that sucker comes right back up the rope at you. You just you catch a lope and don't stop till she's in the trailer, and just cart her on down to the sale. Just you got her in the trailer, just keep on going.
Yeah, don't stop.
Yep. Yeah, that was the only major wreck. I don't know how we didn't blow out the sides of that fence when we were sorting. Like I said, it was kind of like a big racetrack setup. They had an alley that went about 3/4 of the way around the whole setup, and then it ended at a set of scales there, and it was old school. You had to balance the scale and everything, but it worked out pretty good. Just that fence, it was all railroad ties and like 2x12s, and at one point it was a really nice ranchy looking setup, but that was about 112 years ago probably, and
yeah.
Just I was waiting for one of them posts to snap, and of course they had some Powder River panels just patching places here and there.
Yeah,
and man,
shit.
Oh. And it wasn't quite big country like Nevada or or Utah or something, but it was still a pretty big allotment there. So I mean, if they get out, they got a quite a ways they can run before they hit another fence. So I was. And I guess it wouldn't have been too bad for me because I wasn't mounted, so I'd have had just to help make a wing. Yeah, I would have just helped make a wing once they got them headed back. But they never did get anything bust loose. But I don't know how they. And it turns out, all the rodeo rigs, they were fairly handy, but they had a couple that their horses were wanting to run. Just typical arena horses. Ain't nothing wrong with them. It's just how they are. And they grab that bit in their mouth and they're wanting to go. They know one thing, and that's blow to a steer and turn him, or blow to it and sit their ass in the ground and stretch them tight. So it was a little sketchy, but we made it, and then we went back to the place we were staying, kind of the home ranch, and shipped out of there, and we had some. Oh, Wyoming's kind of like Colorado. You got a good mix of like buckaroo style, and then just typical puncher. So you had a lot of like team rope and saddles with rubber on the horn, and or just like ranch cutter types with rubber on the horn, and then you had a bunch of Wade, guys riding spade bit and Rommel reins and roping on a slick horn. So it had a little bit of everything, but for the most part they had good hands. So it turned out we shipped a lot of cattle out of there in a week, so it turned out pretty decent. It was a fun trip, but
you show if I ever show up to help and there's a bunch of rodeo rigs, that just makes me sick to my stomach. Yeah. Even then, it's not even necessarily the rodeo rigs around here. It's just kind of the and you'll know what I'm talking about when I want to know what I want to say, but the lesser punchy rigs.
Yeah.
The ones that are like, I ride horses and I think I know what I'm doing, but I just know how to really chase one and maybe get a loop on him after the second or third try. Those we've got a couple of those around here that are just like, okay, you really want to come help, and I really have to have the help, so come on. But those are like last resort, last ditch. We have to have them gathered. He's the only person available.
Yeah, those are the type though that you get especially on those yearlings or wean calves. When you got to get them bunched up, they're not gonna move out single file like an old set of old cows. When you get them kind of bunched up, headed towards the gate, or you're trying to get them out the gate, and you see one with their head in the air, and then immediately you see like 3 people shake out a loop, and the sucker hadn't even tried to break yet.
Oh yeah, or one just snorts, and you're like, okay, first off, we've got the whole group here. We ain't got time to go rope one right now.
Yeah.
We're not gonna lose the whole group because you're a dumbass.
Yeah, well, let's get
the group and we won't have to rope him.
Yeah, and if he does squirt past you, how about you get the rest of the 100 head through the gate and then go get the other one? Because typically they get out there by themselves and then they decide, well, maybe I don't want to be out here by myself, and they'll kind of start working the way back on up. But yeah, it's amazing. You see one kind of poke his head up above the bunch, and then you hear a bunch of ropes shaking out. And let's calm down. everybody likes to rope, but let's get the job done, and then go slap a loop on them if we need to, but let's get everything else moved first.
Yeah, and then you go to settle up, and they're like, well, I roped that one steer. Well, he never left the bunch. You roped him like he was in the remuda back in the day.
Yeah. There's it's like that everywhere. There's some really good day help, and there's some that you got to have them, so you have them come over. But they're almost more work than the cattle themselves.
Yeah, the best day help that we have around here, that are around here close to us, we had a bunch of steers on gain on a deal, and we showed up, and the guy who we had him on gain had gotten the extra help minus me, my dad, and the same guy who got his leg broke. We all went, obviously, because they were my dad's cattle, but we showed up, and we were like, oh shit. It's going to be a long day, because we had 6 loads to ship that day, every bit of 6 loads. So we got out and we went to going, and Dad just grabbed me before we got on, and he said, when they go to hollering, you just sit back and keep the whole bunch from busting apart.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We got out there, and them some bitches just sat back, and we just took them nice and slow. I mean, you'd look at them and you wouldn't think they was worth the shit, but them guys, we shipped 6 loads. I don't think we roped a single one, and we caught every single one of them some bitches in a wheel corral, just a old Wilson wheel corral.
Yeah.
Didn't rope a single one, and it's amazing when you get somebody who just shut up and sit on his horse and not get above a walk until he absolutely has to.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people, especially like I said on those yearlings and stuff, where they just kind of they move better as a big bunch. Where your older cows, especially if you train them right, you can just you can almost move them one guy. Just you get them lined out and get that lead cow moving, and they'll all just kind of follow in, and then you just kind of got to keep them bumped back into that line. But you when you got to bunch up those yearlings, you almost need somebody out in front just to slow them down so they all stay bunched up, and you can move them at a reasonable pace. Otherwise, you've got to push the back end up you got to push the back end hard just to keep them up with the front. Because otherwise, your lead bunch is gonna turn back on top of you, and then you gotta get them stopped and move them back the way you want them to go. And I always tell my guys is like, don't push them to a trot, but if they want to trot, keep up there with them, just because otherwise you're going to be way behind them, and they're going to turn around. They're going to have a full head of steam coming back on top of you. So let them travel how they want to. But if they're, you got half that's wanting to run and the other half are just dragging behind, you might as well send somebody up front and kind of slow them down.
Yeah. But like my dad, and he's taught me a lot on just like doing shit by yourself. Like just the other day, I moved 94 head of steers. Oh, I guess it was really just 100 yards down the road and across the road, but didn't have a single person helping me. We got trucks with cake boxes, had my trailer on the back, horse loaded up, and just hit the siren, got them all around me, pulled them all out the gate, went in the next gate, set out a line of feed, just walked out of my truck real nice and easy, stepped my horse out, stepped on him, walked around the line of cake, brought up the 4 or 5 stragglers, put them right in the gate. Not a single steer got above a walk. Not a single steer got hot. And it was back when we had highs of 102 and lows of 85.
Yeah, and it doesn't cool down.
And it was humid, and it was a hot day. And actually, another funny part to that is we've got a neighbor, and he's an older cowboy. He's an artist, whatnot. I don't think he does any poems, but he's a cowboy artist. He does a bunch of paintings and stuff. I don't know if you'll know him, Mr. H. Holden.
I know the name. I don't know if I've ever met him. I know the name. I've heard it somewhere before.
We've got 2 of his paintings hanging on our wall of a couple of our old ranch foremans, and he's a pretty good guy, and he's a neighbor, and he was driving by as I was doing that, and boy, he was looking out the window, looking at me, looking for anybody else driving pickup or riding horse. I just waved, and he waved back at me, but he sure was looking, figuring out what was going on. But it's amazing when you see all these people that are like, okay, we need 15 head to move, or 15 hands to catch a load. I mean, I caught 60 in a wheel corral by myself. I just fed them in the wheel corral, closed what I could in there, loaded some, and went out and just made a circle and caught the rest.
Yeah.
It all goes back to the first time you handle them, and it's just amazing what some people think on how you handle them. But
well, the thing is, you always, and I've said it plenty of time myself. You get hot and you're like, I'm gonna show that some bitch, and I'm gonna teach him. Well, no, you choke them out, and then they get hot, and then they don't want to travel, and you didn't teach them a damn thing except they don't like you. That's what you taught them. You
taught them when you get in the pen and go to load them, they want to over the top of you.
Yeah, pretty well. Yeah, it's not so bad when you're dealing with those good English breed cattle, but you get some, and straight Bramers ain't bad either. They really move out nice, and they're pretty docile. But as soon as you cross them with anything, there's a wire gets switched in there, and they get a little hostile.
Yeah, but there's also, they still go back to that Bramer that they can be your best friend.
Oh yeah,
they really can't. It just how one guy will handle them.
Yep.
Shit, I sorted 110 the other day. Little steers came in. I didn't have a flag, didn't have a stick, didn't have a rattle paddle. I just walked, and I put a few out in the alley, look at them, and I was just pulling off the short, slow end, and I just look at them, put my hand out. I mean, little calves, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've already said it, but them little Florida calves, they're going to bounce off the fence no matter what.
Yep.
They especially the first end of the pen, just walked out nice, and then getting to the end, they kind of got a little pissy and wanted to bounce a little bit, but that's the end of the pen. I mean, you come to expect some of that shit.
Oh yeah, it's always the rowdiest one will be the last one through the chute almost every time.
Oh. Yeah.
They either hit the chute at a run and be the first one up there, or they'll back out every time, and you usually have to back them out of the tub and throw them in with another bunch and try it again, because they get real goofy when they're by themselves. And I told this story before, but this old man that works with me, he got freight trained. We had a set of Oregon steers, and we hadn't had any beef cattle or any beef breeds in a while. We had a lot of Holstein steers, and you can put your hand on their hip and just follow them right up to the tub, and or right up to the snake, just with your hand right on their hip, and you about have to sometimes, because they just don't move. They're like just a big dog, more than anything. And but then we got like 2 or 3 loads of Oregon cattle, and and they were pretty ranchy looking cattle. They had the big chin wattle. Some of them had single ones, some of them had doubles. They all had ear marks, and of course I'm sure they were on a community grazing permit or something, where they're doing when they gather, they're gathering 3 different owners and sorting on the go, and they looked like desert cattle, but they really handled pretty nice. But we had a guy running the tub he's pretty new. He's more of a farmer type, but he's he does pretty decent handling cattle. It's just not his forte. But apparently he wasn't moving fast enough for John. And like I said, I was running the chute, and So, and we weren't running out of cattle, because that's the only time I noticed what's going on back there, because you got so much stuff going on at the chute.
Oh yeah.
I think I was running the chute, giving an implant, and giving 2 shots, I think. And so, yeah, you never notice what's going on behind you until you run out of cattle, and then you're like, hey, what the hell? Where's the cows at? And yeah, I think John got mucked out. Well, of course he did. And I guess he took a rattle paddle, and he was going Tiger Woods on their ass, and just swinging from the hip. And he was all sorts of out of it. Just he was too stiff to be fully in the fetal position, but he was trying like hell to be in the fetal position. But one thing about it is he had a good sense of humor, even though he was half unconscious. I mean, he got I don't think he got any major damage from it, but he was sore for about a week. But yeah, he said, I guess the exact words were, he's like, what? You're going too slow. Sometimes you just got to get a little aggressive with them. and he had just a stock flag to start with. And then he said, hand me that rattle paddle. I ain't fucking around anymore. I'm telling him I mean business.
Oh, shit.
But he did get a good Christmas present out of it. I tipped that horn and wood burned red sumbitch on it for him, and gave it to him for Christmas. So he's got a little souvenir.
Oh shit! I've got a good story about horns. When I was little, like any little kid, you're gonna collect light or tags.
Oh yeah.
Horn nubs. The end of nut sacks if you tip.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we'd always fill them with sand, and then like wait till our buddy when we're working ground crew during Brandon, we'd grab one of those nut sacks and fill it with dirt, and then it was always like my buddy Clint, like, hey Clint, and he'd turn around and pop him in the face, sandbag.
Yeah. Well, we were here. I don't remember. I was little, like 5-6 years old. We were processing cattle, and I was picking up them horns. I had a big old pile of them, and they were probably about what we were clipping off was probably about 2-3 inches long. They were I don't even remember what they were, so I can't tell you what the cattle they came off of was, but they had some decent sized horns. And we were processing at my grandparents' house, so I went inside and got a Ziploc bag from my grandma. And they were helping me, and I mean, we filled up a couple of Ziploc bags of horns, and I threw them in the back of my mom's car. Well, she didn't know about them. She finds them, and this is in like beginning or middle of summer, so it was nice and warm.
Oh, just good and ripe in there, I bet.
Oh yeah, I don't remember if they exploded or if she found them all puffy aired up, but that was quite the experience. I've heard that story a few times from my mom, but she was not very happy when she found them bags of horns.
I bet not.
I guess she chewed some ass.
I bet she was looking to sell that car the very next day too, huh?
I don't know if she could have if she wanted to.
Oh man, yeah. Well, and for folks that aren't cattle people, those horns it's a lot like your fingernails or something.
Yeah.
So if you cut down too low, you get to the quick and they start bleeding, and they just squirt like a sieve, and you think they're gonna die when they come out of the chute. Especially if if it's a certain time of year when the blood's up a little bit higher, they come out and they're just spraying streams of blood, and it looks bad. But you give them about an hour or two, and they're going to be covered in dried blood, look like they've been through a war, but they come around no problem. They always do. I've never seen one die from it. So
yeah.
Some of those, I guess, you get a real big base on it and you cut it too short, you can dang sure let them bleed out that way. But typically you use a saw or something, and then you cauterize it. But but that's pretty rare. I mean, most people that
Yeah.
have been around cattle know that, if they got a real big base on it, you want to leave a little bit left there. I mean, it's not ideal. Of course, you're going to get some bruising down the line, but it's better than being dead. So,
yeah. One thing we found is take there's them like hand saws that are the chain that you'll put like a stick through each side, and that kind of cauterizes it as you go. But that forever. But that's just if we got a big one. But normal horns, we've just got like tree trimmers.
Yeah, those work the best.
Quick, and then
then
with iron, or if they're little, we'll just leave them.
Yeah, we had these Mexican steers that we had this spring. A lot of them went to ranch rodeos and cuttings and stuff. So they were like, make sure the brand looks good and take off as much horn as you can. They said, if it's a big horn, leave some, but try to get it at the hairline if you can. And so we're still scraping dried blood off the gates and the fences there at our processing area. But yeah, they looked like hell because they came in, we mass treated them and gave them a couple shots dewormer, and then we'd run them back, and we gave them one of our lot tags, and then right before they shipped, we'd run them back through, give them an implant brand and a fly and 2 fly tags, just 1 fly tag, I guess, and then then the owner tag. And yeah, there's a lot of those steers, like you couldn't even read the owner tag anymore. It was just soaked with blood and caked on there. But I said they really did all right. It just looked like a war zone when we were done.
Oh yeah, but if you get them, especially when the horns are small and when the calves are small, it won't even phase them.
No,
it's bad.
No, and that's kind of the thing about branding is like if you're already sticking an iron on their hip, you might as well do everything else you need to do to them right then. Just they're already stressed, just knock it out, get it done with, and that way you don't got to handle them any more than you have to, and it's gonna be stressful either way on them. So get them all the stress you can right there, and then leave them be.
Yep, and them old calves will be fine. They're pretty resilient. They can take quite a bit. It's not gonna affect them like most people would think. They're pretty tough, some bitches.
No, and like that when they get branded, it's about like sticking your thumb on the stove for a hot second. It hurts like hell for a minute, but it doesn't really hurt you. I mean, it stings like a son of a bitch, but it's done pretty quick, like so. And that's kind of how that brand is for them. And and then give them a shot. It's like a mosquito bite, if that. I mean, yeah, they're just. I don't know. A lot of people don't realize just how big of an animal they are. So it's they can withstand a whole lot.
Oh yeah, but that's like that Yellowstone deal. In the first season, they take that kid and they brand him. Well, me and my dad were watching it, and Dad goes, "No, if you put an iron like that on a person for that long, you'd be going through some major shit." Like, it's not like branding a calf at all. Because they got big old thick skin and hair you got to get through and whatnot. And you're basically, when you brand them, all you're doing is knocking them hair follicles out.
Yeah.
To where there's going to be a little bit of a scar, but you can see in the hair that there is your brand there.
Yep. Yeah, you're wanting to, when you kind of hear it sizzle and pop and that smoke turns just a little bit blue, then you're good. I mean, as soon as you can hear it popping like it's hot grease, you're probably good. And
you're about past good there lots of times.
Yeah, and it depends on if they're steers or whatnot. They don't really care because you're not holding on to them forever. So it's just slap a brand on them and go. But if they're replacements or whatnot, a lot of guys are like, well, let's get it on there good because I'm keeping these cows around for a while, so they don't botch it. But they and for Oklahoma, it's not a brand state, is it? You don't have to brand your. It is.
Oh,
okay.
You don't have to brand them, but you do register your brands and whatnot.
Yeah. See, that's the way that's the way Kansas is. I think there's 2 or 3 counties that border Colorado that I think are required to brand, but the state as a whole is you register a brand. I mean, if you do brand them, you have to have them registered, but it's not a required to brand. But pretty well everywhere west of Kansas and Oklahoma, Texas is not a brand state anymore, but west of that, I think even California is a brand state. So
yeah, but and I don't get, which I guess I can't say this because my few cows that I have don't carry a brand, but they're all registered show heifers, so you're not going to put an iron on them anyways. But
and I think a lot of the people out here, they do a freeze brand on the registered cattle. And dairy cattle are not required, but I think anything beef, anything that has a chance to be out on open range type stuff, or even just out on pasture, if it's in a brand state, they're pretty well any beef cattle's got to have a brand on it, even if they are show cattle. But then they freeze brand them on those most of the time.
Yeah, but most of them guys that don't run brands are just going to be like a hobby guy that just has 30 cows, and I don't get that, but I guess the statistic is the average size of a cow herd in the United States is under 50.
Yeah. Well, and that's like Missouri is one of the bigger cattle states as far as numbers go, but the average herd size is it's like 35, 40 head, something like that.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to bash anybody, but you've really got to play that careful because somebody like that isn't relying on that as a source of income, so they're not going to push their cattle like somebody like we would.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure our cattle gain every pound they can and don't lose a single pound.
Yep.
So that does hurt some things on our averages of daily gain and whatnot, like as a whole deal. But, and like I say, I'm not trying to diss anybody, but it's one of those things you really got to be careful when you get into a small herd. Everybody really needs to pay attention to what their cattle do and how they do perform. That's kind of a big thing, especially when you get into them smaller herds, because they don't have to have the money. Like, it's a hobby.
Yep.
But it kind of can get out of hand. We've got some people around here, and I'm not going to say any names, but it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Now, where at in Oklahoma are you?
You know where Enid is?
Yeah.
North of there, about 10 miles.
Okay. So and Enid, that's east of Woodward a little ways, right?
Yeah, I'm about smack dab in between Oklahoma City and Wichita.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
I'm probably 15 miles from. No, I'm gonna be a little more than 15. I'll probably be 25 miles from I-35, west of I-35.
Okay. So you're down in that muggy type of country. That you're right in the middle of wheat pasture country.
Yeah, I'm right on the edge of that good old muggy heat. Ugh.
Yeah. How far are you from Kingfisher? We used to get a ton of wheat pasture cattle from Kingfisher.
Kingfisher? Straight up Highway 81, 50, 60 miles.
Yeah, so
north.
Yeah. They always say Kingfisher is kind of like the mecca of wheat pasture in Oklahoma. It's kind of what I've been told.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like the center of the wheat pasture world.
Yeah, which they won't get as cold as us, and that's kind of the big thing. But it's a different type of soil, and they get a little more rain than we do down there.
Yeah.
There around the city. But if you really want to look at gains, we'll kick their ass every day.
Yeah, better feed.
I mean, we can damn near put out a 3.8 on wheat pasture if they're good. Well, I had a half section, and they pulled mud this winter, big time. They put out a 3.6 of
Nice.
steer. And they did way better than I thought they would, but because I went and got a test weight, and I called Dad, and I was like, they need to go. They're ready. And he's like, well, I guess we're not going to try and sell them off the farm then. Yeah, kind of a rookie mistake. My bad.
Yeah.
But,
That's funny.
But they did all right once we got them to the sale barn. They were on a half section, so we had 5 loads up there, easy.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of probably about 100 pounds from top to bottom at least. So when they got sale barn, they cut them up into about 3 groups. And the bigger crossies, the middle that's not going to be as crossy, and maybe there'll be some that are bigger, but they're not going to be crossy. You know what I mean? Just the more English type, and then the smaller
Yeah.
is about how they normally, at the sale barns, break them up. And I think there was like 3 loads in the middle and then 1 on each side. So there was 3 loads, the less crossy, more English looking, which would be your northern beef cattle, your Angus and your Hereford and Red Angus and that type of stuff. And then your crossy, what we're calling a crossy, is your Brahma type cattle coming that are going to have ear and a little bit extra skin. That'll be the quote unquote crossy ones. They're all cross cattle, but that's how they distinguish it. That's just slang for it, I guess.
Yeah, and then you get into the feedlots, like they'll call them the crossbreds. A lot of times they'll just call them Okies. And so you got like,
okay.
Yeah, so like you got your number 1 Okies would be like more of your English dominant, English and continental dominant, and then and then the more skin and more ear they got, then they'll go into like your number 2 Okies, and so everybody's got their own terms, but they and that, I'm sure, because there's just a whole shit pot load of cattle that come off a wheat pasture in Oklahoma, so that's where we got Okies coming in. Same way with gator bait when they're coming from Florida. We even got some Hawaiian cattle here last winter.
Really?
Not this past winter, but the winter before. Yeah, we had about 500 head that I don't know if they came over on a plane or a barge. I think they came over on a barge, but I guess they load them on an airplane there in Hawaii too.
Really?
Yeah, so it'd be like taking. Time? Well, no, they what they'll do is they'll put them on basically a cattle pot / shipping container. So if you just take the nose off your cattle pot and take just remove your axles and just make it a big rectangle, but it's still got the vent holes and everything like a cattle pot, and then they'll just use a crane or whatever to load them on these big cargo planes. And and they looked a lot like southeastern cattle, just kind of just crossbred, little bit of ear, not too much, but a lot of English influence, a lot of continental influence, kind of. A lot of like Salire, Charolais, Simmental cross, but of course they're all packing a little bit of ear. Just typical southeastern type cattle.
Oh yeah, but being out there, they're going to be out in that muggy heat, and they're going to be dealing with bugs, so they have to have that good.
Oh yeah,
over there.
Yeah, exactly, and they really did pretty good. It was weird. They were like 850, and we had one set that was more of like an Angus dominant, and then the bigger set was all just kind of crossbred stuff, and the big nicer bunch like I said, they were pushing 850, and then we usually ship ours because we just background them. We don't finish anything out except for a couple custom, local guys here. They'll bring 5-10 head in and feed them out.
Oh yeah.
But everything else we just background them and ship them over the hill into California. And we usually right about 900 pounds when we send them south, and they were just shy of that, and we were pulling like 5, 6, 7 head a day out of this pen, and they were all temping like real hot, like 106, 107. And but they were long enough day on feed cattle. We were using our cheap drugs. We weren't using Draxin or Mycotil or anything at that point. It was just biomycin and you ever use Norfinical?
Yes.
Norfinical is a godsend.
Yes. And this sounds really farmer of me, but we dart a hell of a lot of our cattle because it's really is easier on them. But you can get that shit dart. Yeah, and it's like a half the price of New Floor too. Yeah, New Floor, stupid. I don't get why Norfinical blows them out of the water. Oh yeah, it's the same exact drug, just easier to give. It really is, like the concentration, everything's the same as New Floor. It just it's a hell of a lot easier to give, and all the cowhands out there nodding their head because they've done it, but everybody who hasn't, New Floor is like if you mix molasses with and syrup. Yeah, with a touch of concrete in there. Once it drops below about 40 degrees, it's like, it is like the windshield warmer of the dash as soon as you get out in the morning. Yeah, and you're on high, and it might be ready by 3 o'clock. Yeah, and go ahead and put an implant needle on the end of your syringe, and you might push it through there, but it'd be like pushing Play-Doh through a syringe. Yeah, pretty much. You could have the most experienced, badass, like strong farrier, the guy that'll shoe 7, 8 head of horses all day, every day, and he'll still have hard time pushing that stuff through a syringe because it gets thick. Oh yeah. But we got to the point on those cattle, it was every day, like 5, 6, 7 head, 10 head, couple days, just would bring them through, and they're all temping like 106, 107. Give them a shot of biomycin, away they went. And finally, I was like, they're going to have to tough it out. I said, we're going to end up treating the whole damn pen. We'd already mass treated them, and we weren't losing anything off. Usually when you're pulling that many, you're behind, and and you're going to lose some. But it was just kind of all of a sudden, and I don't know. I said, I'm going to just leave them be. Don't touch them and see how they respond. If we lose 1 or 2, I'll take the dead on that. But I said, it's getting stupid. So we let them be, and they pulled out of it on their own. We never did lose one off of that deal. But we treated a whole bunch of them, and then it got to the point where it wasn't making any sense. We usually go, I think if you pull 10% of the lot, and they temp hot within 3 days is kind of that's when we start talking about mass treating them, if we don't mass treat them on arrival. And on some of those, I like to push it up to about 25% because if you mass treat them at the wrong time, this just as well as I do, and I've talked about it before, that antibiotic doesn't discriminate. It kills all the bacteria, good and bad. So if you've only got 10% of your cattle that are sick, and you run them all through and give them a shot, well, that antibiotic, the ones that aren't sick, it's going to knock the shit out of them, and there's a better chance they're going to get sick. You're going to make them sick by treating them. And you're going to set their gut behind. Yeah, so you really got to walk a fine line there, trying to decide when to do it, when not. And it's all timing. Unless they're, if they're high risk cattle coming out of the southeast or just kind of sale barn trash,
yeah, you can see those coming off the truck, and yeah, they're going through the chute tomorrow and getting a shot of whatever. But a lot of times you got to just play it by ear, and just, as I always say, like if we're at, we had a couple lots of Holsteins that were like this, and we were up to right around 25% of the pen treated, and weren't slowing down. I said, screw it, let's just do them all, because if we're, you pull 6 head and you're already at like 25% of the lot, and you go back the next day and you see another 5-6 head just dragging the dirt, well, let's get it over with.
Yeah, but what is, you say you got a pen of calves coming in, and you're pulling 6, what's your go-to, your first go-to? Pulling a 6 calf.
My favorite, on Holsteins, I really like Zactran. It seems like it works really good on it, and Zactran's kind of like it's another version of a Draxxin, but it's about a third the cost. Draxxin works really good, but man, it is expensive. And
yeah.
And I like Zactran. I like Micatil, but just if it was me running my own cattle, I would start them with biomycin or normycin, some sort of LA product, oxytetracycline, because it's a broad spectrum. It'll treat just about anything, and it doesn't really knock the shit out of them because it's not as long lasting as those other drugs. But now you treat a pen of cattle or a set of cattle with Draxxin, and around day 4 afterwards, man, they look tough. They really look tough.
Yeah.
But they usually pull right on through it. But I think if you're buying in bulk, Draxxin runs you just over $3 a cc, I think. So one of those big 500 cc bottles is going to run you about $1,700, I think, is last time I looked. And so you gotta, I think it's 1 per 100 or 1.1 per 100, something like that.
Yeah, 1.1 per 100. Because on a 3-weight, I probably overtreat, but I give about 4.5, 5, depending on how bad they look.
Yeah.
But we've been doing on these slower cattle. I've had to pull a couple Draxxin and B12, and then if they still aren't doing good, we might give them a pull of like a Baytril. You ever use Baytril?
Baytril is very timing is very important on Baytril, because unlike like your normycin, which they call a shotgun treatment, Baytril is a rifle treatment. You have to hit that certain window, and if you hit it right, it works excellent. If not, you might as well just be pouring water down their skin. I mean, it's not gonna do anything.
Yeah, but normally that past few times I've pulled them, which I haven't, like I say, I haven't pulled very many, just a few. But that Draxxin and that B12 has worked phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that B12 just gives them big old shot of energy, and
I'm a big fan of B12. It's a wonder drug.
It's cheap.
Yep, it's cheap and it's effective. That's the thing, is that it doesn't really do much for them except give them a little bit of energy, but sometimes that's all they need.
They'll go out the bunk and fill their belly up. That's a big thing. Just them going and filling up. Yeah,
I know. It doesn't really matter where you go to. If you talk to somebody, like, what's their best secret on weaning calves, they always say, get some feed in front of them and keep feed in front of them. And then it's harder on the mamas than it is those babies. That as long as they got some feed in front of them, those babies will bawl for about 12, 18 hours, something like that, and then they'll just kind of settle on down and they'll go to eating and they'll be fine. But those are cows, they'll bawl for a solid week before they're done.
Oh yeah, if you got them calves eating, you'll cut your sickness down by a whole bunch, and you cut or you increase their future performance huge.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
just that little boost right there is big time. And it's just like when you're growing as a kid. I mean, you get your growth stunted, it's going to take you a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you grow right on through and you get everything exactly how you need it, you'll grow up real fast and you'll be, I mean, it's a huge deal.
Yeah. It's funny that you guys are kind of just, you're like the middleman of cattle, where you're taking them off the cow and you're running them, and you're usually shipping them to a finish yard where those guys, like, on my end, we want them a little rangy, a little you want them a little bit empty coming in, because then they'll pop when they hit feed.
Good and hard.
Yeah. Okay. So you get some unexpected gain from it, but you guys, you make your money by putting pounds on them. So you don't want them soggy, because then you're going to get docked on when you sell them. But you want to grow them right, and so you guys have to walk kind of a fine line there.
Yeah, and those calves that I was talking about, they were right on that line, but the bigger crossy ones do got a little soggy. And that's kind of your go-to when you're looking at these Florida cattle and seeing when they're ready to go, especially on wheat pasture, not as much on grass, but when them bigger crossy ones start to get a little soggy and get a little more bounce in their skin, you about want them gone, and they'll sell about right. But
yeah,
because there's a difference in a bigger crossy one being soggy than a bigger English one being soggy. And when I'm saying soggy, I mean a fat calf, just a calf got a lot of fat on him. But there's a big difference there, and those calves right there are a good indicator of when they're about ready to go.
Yeah.
So those calves that I talked about, they were right there on the line. They were on the top end, but they did all right.
Yeah. Yeah, those cattle coming from your part of the world, you can usually smell them coming down the road about 3 miles away, and they could paint that back wall of your shop there behind you just by sneezing. They'll sneeze, and they'll shit out a stream of just dark green liquid for about 40.
Greasy wheat pasture shit.
Oh man, I swear they can shoot that stuff about 40 foot too. I mean,
try and get that shit out of your clothes.
Oh, projectile. Yeah, it's I guess there's certain parts of California where they feed a lot of like vegetable byproducts, like they'll feed them carrots and stuff, and they of course cows they'll eat. Oh, they said it stinks something terrible, but the cattle like it. That, of course, cattle eat just about anything.
Yeah, I know. Like you plant turnips, cattle will dig them turnips up and eat them. Like talking to a guy one time, he said they'll do real good on them turnips, but you better carry a broom handle.
Yeah, you gotta dislodge it.
You go shove them down into their belly.
Yep. Yeah, same thing with sugar beets.
Yeah, but all those big bulb root plants, they'll dig them suckers up and eat them like candy.
It's got a lot of starch, and so they do well on it. But yeah, they can choke pretty easy. And
well, they don't necessarily chew it. I mean, they don't chew their food initially going down. They just kind of bite it off and swallow it, and it goes through the rumen, comes back up, and the other three.
Yeah. Do you ever listen to any Corb Lund?
Yeah.
Have you heard his Talkin' Veterinarian Blues song?
No.
He talks about. I'll put that as the featured song of the episode. But he talks about how he's talking as if he's a vet, because his old man is a vet, and he's talking about there's a steer in the corner of a pen up there, and he's from Alberta, Canada, somewhere in Alberta, and there's a steer in the corner of the pen, and he's mighty mad because he's got a beet stuck in his throat, and they poke at it with a stick, can't get it to go. Says, well, you got a knife, we better cut him now so you can save the meat. And So he goes, gets a knife, makes the jugular cut, and then the steer coughs up the beat, and then just bled to death.
Yeah, that'd be about what happened. What would happen around here? That sounds about par for course.
Yep. Well, Bud, I think I probably better get around and get ready for tomorrow. But it was good visiting with you. Let's do it again. I sure enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. Me too. It was good to talk to you. So I
yeah,
hope
you
we can
bet.
do it again one of these days.
Yeah, you bet. So, well, everybody, you guys be safe, be good, don't be a dick to each other, and I got shit to do. So move your ass. We're burning daylight. You gonna do yours or what?
Oh shit! I was out of it. So mount up. We're chasing strays.
All right. See y'all.